Hey y'all, I'm Cece, and today I am here to do a tag that everyone else did like a year ago. No, honestly, I am actually delighted to be filming this. Filming tags and challenges used to be one of my favorite things when I started my channel, and I've missed doing it because it's been a while. Recently on Instagram, I asked if people had videos that they'd been missing seeing from me, or that they were just interested in me making in general, and I got a ton of incredible responses that I'm definitely keeping in mind going forward. But someone in particular, Broken Robe, mentioned that I hadn't done a challenge video, or they weren't sure if I'd done any of the challenge videos, which I took to mean, have I done the Do I Have That Book challenge? Because that's kind of been the big challenge. And I did already do the Do I Have That Book original thing. I think I did that back in 2018 when I did Vlogmas, but I never did the Do I Have That Other Book challenge, which is a list of 20 new questions that are certain elements that are going to show up in my books back here. The Do I Have That Other Book challenge was originally created by Keeping Tabs and Current Chapter. They also created the original Do I Have That Book challenge, so I have not seen this list and I have not watched other Do I Have That Other Book videos, so I don't know what the contents of these are. And unlike my last video, I'm not going to do this one timed because I would like a stress-free experience. The thing is, last time I did the Do I Have That Book challenge, I was able to accomplish most of the questions, but a couple I missed, and since then my collection has expanded significantly. However, with that being said, these shelves, because they were just recently thrown together, have absolutely no organization. They used to be organized, and then when I built my huge rainbow queer book wall, I destroyed them. So some of these shelves have like rainbow themes, because when I took down stacks of books, I just put the entire stack onto my shelves, and then I left my home a few hours later to go on vacation. So those are the only books that have been organized. Everything else is kind of a disaster. But before I jump into this first question, I wanted to talk about this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform for creative and curious individuals. There are thousands of classes in design, photography, freelance, lifestyle stuff, and more. With there constantly being new classes, you can learn new stuff all the time, and you can learn at your own pace. Skillshare classes allow me to embrace my creativity, and in that vein, I wanted to recommend a class called Creativity Unleashed. Discover, hone, and share your voice online by Nathaniel Drew. This is an incredible class where you can learn a little bit more about creating your online identity. I've been making videos for 6 years now, and one of the most difficult things I had to learn when I was establishing myself is, as a creator, what value do I bring to this space, and what things are central to the kind of content I want to make online, and those are two super central things covered in this class. Skillshare Premium gets you unlimited access to all of the classes on Skillshare's platform, and the first 1,000 people who click the link down in my description are going to get their first month of Skillshare for free. So if you're interested in learning something new, check out Skillshare, follow that link. And now let's get into this. Number 1, do you have a book with a fox on the cover or part of the plot? Starting out, difficult. My first thought is Nine Fox Gambit, but I don't actually think that book has anything to do with foxes. Let's see if it says. Absolutely nothing is mentioned about the title on the back, so I think we are going to go with a fox that is relevant to plot in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. There is a character in this book who is a fox, who is important to the journey of the Pevensey children. So, okay, number 2. Do you have a book that was published the year you were born or within a 3-year radius? Ooh. Okay, so I was born in the year 1995. I'm guessing I have at least a couple books published in like the 97 range, if I don't have something from 95 specifically. I'm trying to remember when The Giver was published. I've had this edition for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure The Giver came out in the 90s. Okay, so this was originally published in 1993, copyright 1993. So I could go with The Giver, but I do want to check a couple more books because I want to see if I have one that's exactly 1995. I have one, and it's relevant, unfortunately. So this is actually a book that I read when I was in college. It was for my women's and gender studies minor. It's a book called The Story of Jane, the Legendary Underground Feminist Abortion Service by Laura Kaplan. This is about the, existing abortion care that existed before Roe v. Wade. So it's the 4 years prior to Roe v. Wade, and there was an underground abortion service called Jane that helped pregnant people get access to abortions. So this is a super fascinating book. I read it, like I said, when I was getting my degree. It is unfortunately fucking relevant because Roe v. Wade, is the entire point of how much it changed and improved so many people's lives, and now look where we are. So if you're interested in some feminist history, if you're interested in some history on abortion and what abortion access looked like prior to Roe v. Wade, check out The Story of Jane, which was apparently published the year I was born, 1995. Do you have a book with music as a weapon or magic? Yes. I'm actually going to say that this is both. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab is the first book in a duology where acts of violence create monsters. And depending on the severity of the act of violence, a different type of monster is created. And the worst kind of monster that can be created is something called the Sunai, and they use magic to lure their victims before they kill them, steal their soul, etc. And the main character of this book, or one of the main characters of this book, August, plays violin. Fun fact, this book, and all of my Victoria Schwab books except for her most recent couple, have been signed. Question 4. Do you have a series with mismatched covers? Which series to go with? So this over here used to be my series shelf primarily. Any series that I had read was over here. But again, you know. So I was gonna say the Dustland series because there's Blood Red Road, which is book 1, and then Rebel Heart is book 2, and it's shiny, and that annoys the hell out of me, but I think this was intentional. Do these not match? They could. This is a post-apocalyptic YA series that I read when I was in high school. I never finished it because I never got around to the 3rd book, but maybe I will someday. Honestly, I think I'm going to go with Graceling because I do have a matching set of Graceling that is incredibly recent. For the longest time, I had a super mismatched set of the Graceling series, and I still have this hardcover, but now I have the brand new released covers, like the matching set. Honestly, for the most part, my series that don't match because they're different sizes, not because they're different covers. And the reason for that is that I am so distraught by different covers that I usually wait until I can get a series that isn't going to have mismatched covers. Question 5. Do you have a book with a shapeshifter? Yeah. Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta is the first book in a duology. The main character is a demigirl who is a shapeshifter who learns gender transformation magic from a gender fluid, magic user. And this is a series with a non-binary romance. Fabulous. Question 6, do you have a book signed by the author? So I did already mention This Savage Song and Victoria Schwab's book, so I'll find something else. This took me so long to decide for some reason. I'm gonna say Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson, because this was the wildest experience I've had in terms of having a book signed. There is Jacqueline's signature, and the reason that this is signed is because I was part of a YouTube original with Jacqueline, which was absolutely insane. The craziest thing to date that's ever happened to me and will probably ever happen to me. This is a gorgeous story about a woman reflecting back on growing up in Brooklyn and the incredibly close friends that she had at that period in her life, and how those girls are the girls she felt closer to than anyone else. It's gorgeous. It's my favorite of Jacqueline's books. and it was so amazing to have this signed. I also have one of her books signed, Brown Girl Dreaming, that was actually signed before I did the YouTube original because I met Jacqueline once before when she came to my university. Question 7. Do you have a book with a mostly red cover? I could go with a super easy answer and just reach down to one of these books in my red book stack. I think I'm gonna do that. Not to be a Victoria stan, but... So the re-release cover of Vicious by V.E. Schwab is super red. The original cover of this was not super red. Oh no, that was a lie. It is. It was super red then too. This is a series about grad students who discover that the secret to superpowers is near-death experiences, and then 10 years later they have become arch nemeses. And it was the first book I ever read by Victoria Schwab. I adore it still. Question 8. Oh no, it's one of these. Do you have a book between 287 and 306 pages? That's so specific. Okay, if we're counting pages that actually have story on them and not like the afterword, this barely maxes out the 306. It's 307 if you include the final page of like after the fact questions. The actual final page of this book is page 299 and therefore it counts. This is Running with Lions by Julian Winters, who is incredible, just by the way. And this is a summer male-male romance. It's about a character named Sebastian who is at like this summer camp for his soccer team that happens every year, and this boy who he hasn't seen since they were best friends when they were kids is now on the soccer team, and there's some weird tension there, but also he thinks this guy's really cute. Really delightful summer romance that has a soccer team full of boys that are just so nice. Do you have a book with a main character who wears glasses? My first impulse is Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, but I want to see if I can think of another one. I thought I remembered her wearing glasses. Okay. I just got this book a couple of months ago. I haven't read it yet. And I just talked about it in my book haul. Hazel's Theory of Evolution by Lisa Jen Bigelow is a middle grade book about a girl who I believe is asexual, and she's working on figuring that out. She's also just starting 8th grade. She's super intimidated by it, and one of her moms is pregnant, and there's some like tension there in terms of Hazel wanting to support her moms. So I really loved Lisa Jen Bigelow's book Drumroll Please, and I think this is going to be great, and she wears glasses. Yay! Question 10. Do you have a book with a title that has the same number of letters as your first name? Let's go with my full first name instead of just Cece. Cece is always what I go by, but let's go with Cecilia because that's 7 letters, a little bit more difficult. Let's try to see a book that has 7 letters in the title. 7. Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams is a book that I picked up recently, like secondhand somewhere, not 100% sure where. I've been super curious about this. It's adult fiction, and I've heard that it's about like a messy main character trying to figure her shit out. My vibe entirely. It's also pitched as Bridget Jones' Diary meets Americana, and on Instagram I saw it comped to the show Fleabag, so overall, that's a lot of comparisons that get me really psyched about, like, a messy Jamaican British woman just trying to figure her shit out. Number 11. Do you have a book with cybercrime or technology as a plot point? Cybercrime is specific. So cybercrime slash technology, I'm gonna interpret and go with Whole Metal Girls by Emily Skrutsky. This is a YA sci-fi book about girls who are taken and they become like genetically modified soldiers, but not just like genetically modified, they're transformed and they start including like metal parts to their bodies, and one of them wakes up and has no memory of agreeing to this, and the other one only agreed because it was the only thing that would allow her to save her family. This has a ton of stuff about like technology being used in fucked up ways and the government using technology to control the bodies of like the poor. So I think that fits the prompt. Question 12. Do you have a book written in another language or translated to English? Yes. I am pretty eager to read The Murmur of Bees by Sofia Segovia. This is a book that was translated by Simon Bruni. This is about a town when one day it is discovered there's this little boy who is wrapped up, abandoned in a blanket of bees. And what this boy does to this community of people as they come together to raise him. I've had this as part of my collection for a couple of years now. I'm very sad that I haven't read it yet because I think it's going to be really fascinating. Question 13. Do you have a book written by an Asian author? Absolutely. How about we find a book with a queer Asian protagonist written by a queer Asian author? Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Karam. I still had plenty of options for this, but since this is one of my favorite books of all time, figured I'd choose this one. This is a book about a character named Darius Kellner, who, according to the back, speaks better Klingon than Farsi. He is biracial and Persian, and he does not feel connection to his Persian heritage at all, but he also feels super disconnected from his white father, and the only thing they bond over is Star Trek. And then it turns out that Darius's grandfather is sick, so the family ends up going on a vacation back to Iran. And this is all about Darius dealing with depression, dealing with a family who doesn't necessarily understand depression or mental health. Also a character dealing with burgeoning sexuality, which is dealt more with in book 2. Question 14. Do you have a book with a moon on the cover? Ooh, okay. My first thought is The Girl Who Drank the Moon, but I unhauled that book after I read it and didn't like it, so I don't know why that was my first thought, but I know I have other options. Okay. Let's think logically about books that would have moons on the cover. Books about werewolves probably would have moons. Only have a couple of those. Books about going to space might have a moon on the cover. A lot of people on these sci-fi books. What's the deal with that? Planet, not a moon. You know it's bad when you gotta break out the step stool. Oh! Bit of a throwback, but I found one. The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. This is one of my favorite books from childhood. I've had this copy for a long time. This is a middle grade fantasy about a group of orphan kids in Venice, Italy, and this group of orphan kids gets involved accidentally in a very magical journey. I love this. Fun fact, this copy of the book has actually been to this bridge in Venice. While I did not see this bridge by moonlight, the cover of the book does have a moon on it. Right up there. Question 15. Do you have an illustrated children's book? Yes. Where on earth would that be? Oh my god. I do have one shelf down at the bottom that is stacked a couple of stacks deep, and this was behind all of that. So this is Love is Love, written by Michael Genhart and illustrated by Ken Min. I was sent this as part of a Pride package for Source Books, I believe, and it is an illustrated children's book. Hey. Question 16. Do you have a collection of fairy tales or myths? I mean, take your pick. Let's go OG here. Grimm's Fairy Tales. This is one of my faves. I think it's completely beautiful, and Grimm's Fairy Tales have always been some of my faves. So, question 17. Do you have a sci-fi or fantasy with an alliance between races? Probably? The only thing that is coming to me right now is a fantasy that I haven't read for years, and that is Aragon by Christopher Paolini. I'm sure there are plenty of more current examples, but every time I try to make my brain go to a different place, my brain is like, remember all the battle sequences from the inheritance cycle? So this is what you're getting. Aragon is a high fantasy. Me and Christopher Paolini, we had a lot of similarities in the ways that we were raised, so I always connected a lot with him and loved this book when I was younger, and I think the series overall is great. And there are numerous different battles that are decided purely on the fact that, like, huge different groups and different races of people have to band together to fight against a corrupt king, because it's a high fantasy. And it's very, very, very inspired by Star Wars. Think scenes where everyone bands together against Darth Vader, and you've gotten a great picture of what a lot of sequences from Aragon probably feel like. Question 18. Do you have a book with a narrow front cover? What? Paperback with a front cover that is slightly trimmed, shorter or narrower than the rest of the book. Oh, one of those covers that has like the like half flap things? I think? Is that what that means? Like, are we just talking about this? This bit? Is that all that means? If it is, Homegoing by Ya Jassy. This is a multi-generational story starting in Ghana in the 18th century, and it follows two half-sisters who do not know the other exists, and every chapter follows a different one of their descendants. So it's over a couple hundred years. It is gorgeous. I love this book. And it has one of those flap cover things. I hope that's what this question means. Question 19. Do you have a book that includes the first chapter of the sequel? Yeah, there must be. Oh my god, why is this keeping so difficult? It's almost like this is a challenge or something. I decided to go old school, and that finally paid off. So, The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. This is a book that has a sneak peek, the first chapter of the next book, and a burning in the back. Do books still do that? Like, I feel like I just looked at several newer YA books, and no one's putting the first chapter in the back anymore. Is that not a thing? The Goose Girl is a retelling of the fairy tale The Goose Girl, and it's a series that I loved a lot when I was younger. I believe the main character of Goose Girl has, like, the ability to speak to, like, she has the ability of language. She can communicate with animals, and I think maybe nature. Look, this one's signed too. Helen's an old one. That was signed a long time ago. And finally, number 20, do you have a book with a broken spine? Oh man. My copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales that I showed you, it does have kind of a busted spine. But I must have other books. Give me a second. The Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan. This is a book, I think I got this one secondhand. I do have plenty of books that have broken spines. I am not that precious with my books. Like, I take care of them, but I also think that books, like, I buy them to read them, so a lot of my books have notes and, like, highlighter marks and stuff like that, but this one does have a broken spine. There, it's even taped at the bottom. That was not me. It came like that from the shop that I got it at secondhand, but it does just, like, it falls open to that page. The Titan's Curse is the third book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, which is a series about kids who are, like, who discover that they are demigods. I assume you have all heard of Percy Jackson. It's kind of the thing for a while, but yeah, broken spine. Okay, that's it. I did it. All 20. This, like, it was hard to track down books specifically, but I never had a question on here that I was like, oh man, I don't think I have one of those. Which is cool just from the perspective of someone whose collection has grown a lot. It just makes me happy. I know all of you can see the shelves behind me, and so I'm sure there are going to be plenty of these questions where you're all watching and you're like, this book that's directly behind you fits perfectly. What were you doing? I agree with you. I agree with you. The last time I did this, people were like constantly shouting about series that I forgot, and it has haunted me, I'm not gonna lie. So if there's something super obvious I missed behind me, let me know. Let me bask in it. I deserve it. Let me absorb these books that I forgot existed. If there are other book tags and challenges that you have all loved recently that you would love to see me do, let me know down in the comments below. Like I said, I love doing tags and challenges. It's one of my faves. Other than that I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching this video, for watching me wander around in front of my bookshelves trying to find books. If you have made it this far, leave a sunshine emoji in your comment. It would be super appreciated. Really just thank you for watching, and I hope I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!